Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another Pixo stream. How are you guys doing? My name is Ian, and I sculpt a lot of weird stuff, like poo monsters. And I make toys for a living, and it's awesome. How are you guys doing? Love on Max question. How you doing, man? 88 Scrolls, welcome to Poo Monsters version 2. Absolutely. AC says fire! How's everybody's Sunday? I know you guys have there's a Super Bowl, right? There's a football game going on. I don't know. I'm not a big football player, but if you're here to hang out with me, feel free to ask questions. Anything about ZBrush, let's do it. But yeah, let's do it. Let's get into it. I'll kind of explain what I'm going to be doing with these characters on screen here in a second. Kind of making sure I have everything before I get going. And yeah. Hello. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys my pure ref real quick. So we're making an entire scene in ZBrush. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm actually going to be making something that will be not only 3D printable, but also we'll be moving it into VR space over time. So everything we're making essentially is going to have a game-ready component to it, which is a little bit different than what I usually do in my streams. But I wanted to take on this project to showcase how much you can actually do in ZBrush. Now, what we're going to be doing is basically replicating this. We have our Mighty Poo monster along with a sweet corn in his hands, along with Conker. So we're going to be building this level here, and then eventually we'll get into a little bit of retopoing using Z-spheres. And then after that, it's going to be putting it all together. So let's do it. This is my Super Bowl. Woohoo! Hey, Metal Gear. All right, so this is kind of the scene we're going to be replicating. So let's block out what this looks like, and that's going to be the base for our collectible, which would be really cool. So I'm going to put this kind of off screen a bit. And again, if you guys have any questions about anything ZBrush related, feel free to ask. And I will do my best to answer those questions as much as humanly possible. You know, as much. Okay, let's take my window. I always, for some reason, have it like on top of the thing, so that'll be fine. Let's leave that there. Will 0.5 be the latest update before the transition? I actually have no idea, LOL, about any of the transition information whatsoever. I can tell you that there is there's always going to be some sort of update on Pixo's and Maxon's website over time, so always refer back to the Pixologic website or Maxon's website for any future updates that's going to be happening with that whole transition period. I unfortunately don't know any of that knowledge, but what I can say is if you check there and it's on those websites, then it's official. If you find information elsewhere and it's not directly attached to Maxon or Pixologic's website, then I wouldn't really trust that information until Maxon or Pixo makes an announcement. So always keep on the lookout. Transitions always take a long time. I'm sure that there's a lot going on, but yeah. ML Creative, what's up, dude? How you doing? Welcome in. Eric, hello. Get it, have fun. Yep. Wrong stream title? Oh, is that the wrong stream title? That's okay. We'll fix it in post. Yeah, one of the best Pixo streams have. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Let's do it. So here's all of our fun little characters, and to catch you guys up real quick, it's all Conker Bad Fur Day. I love that game. I love it so much. So we got Conker the Squirrel, the Great Mighty Poo, Sweet Corn, and Money. So let's go ahead and clear this off a bit. Boop. And let's start piecing the world together. So we're going to keep them in T-pose, but we're going to kind of create an environment piece, and then we're going to kind of piece it all in together slowly. So I'm going to start with a new tool. So we're actually just going to come up here to Cylinder, make Polymesh 3D. We're just going to start blocking out what that base is going to look like. And let's actually sample a color from the Great Mighty Poo, since it is his world. Just to keep it fun and gross. That's what we're all about here. You guys know. Go color. That. And let's fill object. And now let's go ahead and just start blocking this out. And as you can see here, I actually have everything segregated from the Conker by himself, the Mighty Pooh by himself, Money, and then Sweet Corn. When you're building big projects, try to keep your folders organized as much as possible. It's helpful. Environments. And hopefully you can don't take spelling lessons from bad. All right. See, look at that equal sign. Block out. Yes. Frost. He was. The question was referring to about Maxon and Pixelogic's merger. And I believe, actually, you know what? I think I have a website on that you guys can always refer to, because there's tons of questions. Let me pull it up real quick. I have it bookmarked. I'm pretty sure. I always go back to it. So if anybody just kind of came in as unaware of the announcement Pixelogic has, you can always refer back to the website. I just shared it. It just talks about the merger and everything kind of involved in it. So if you have any questions, always refer back to here. All right. So let's go ahead and start blocking this out. So from the looks of it, and I'm going to share the concept here so you guys can see what I'm seeing. So it's not really a guess. Let's actually put it over here because I like to show off my cat. So we're basically building a flat kind of bowl, and then it's going to have a ramp coming down. So as far as environments go, it's actually not super complex. So we'll just kind of run with that, and then we'll texture it as need be. Because this will still be a collectible piece or like a printable statue, I'm going to want to make sure that the character are the focal point and the environment is just complementing the characters. So we're going to start with this cylinder. We'll go to geometry, and we're going to go to edge loop and delete loops. So if you have it basically just gets rid of all the loops that are unnecessary, not actually causing the shape. We're just going to kind of put that down in there. Keep it nice and loose. Hey, what's up, just in case? How's it going? It's going pretty good, man. Bad fur day, awesome. Yep. Hello, Enrique, how you doing? Hey, B. Hey, what's happening? Okay, so we're gonna use some ZModeler as well, and what I'm gonna be doing is just kind of creating almost like a little bit of an island here, because he's gonna be inside. What we're gonna do is hover over this. We're gonna go to extrude. Poly group all. If you hover over a face using ZModeler and hit your spacebar, it'll bring up all ZModeler actions for your face. Same with point and same with the edge loops. So you guys notice that and you're new to ZModeler, that's how that works. So I'll hover over here, extrude all the poly groups, and I'm just gonna bring this straight down, something like that. Perfect. And now we're gonna what I'm gonna try to do is actually maybe end up getting this to kind of loop around. So I'm actually going to kind of hover this space here because that's where the ramp will be. I'm going to hover, and as you drag this out, if you hold control, you actually can create a little floating space. And if you tap Alt, you'll actually change the poly group itself. So we'll do something like that. And the reason why I want this separate is because I want to build the ramp just in a separate place. So we're going to Control Shift, hide that, and let's go split hit him. Now we have these two parts here. I created a new habit of saving the tools and delete them due to the project gets heavier as the sub-tool number increases. Do you do that? Absolutely. I do that as well. I don't ever save a project personally unless I absolutely do. That's just kind of my thing. But you're right. I mean, the more tools you have up here, the denser it gets. So you really want to make sure that if you're not using any of this stuff up here, then definitely, hide it or get rid of it after you've saved it out. Speaking of which, I'm going to use this guy as we build our world. So yeah, great question. Why the T-pose are you going to rig for animation? So right now, I'm doing T-pose so I can actually send it on over to get it textured in another program. But at the same time, I'm not too sure if I actually want to rig it or not. For this piece that we're doing here, we won't be rigging, but maybe in a future project, I might actually play around with getting them rigged. So when in doubt, start with T-pose. All right, let's over here, and now I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of maybe scale this up a little bit. So I'm just working with base shapes right now, but I'm going to, from here, highlight the bottom. I'm gonna just dig that back in. I don't want these connected. Now I'm going to start kind of maybe creating a little bit of a taper or like a little bit of an angle here. I'm going to select these. Trying to build a ramp. Now I do things a little bit more of a manual element. I know there's a lot of fast ways you can do things. I personally like to have full control over everything, so I'm trying out a few things, just seeing if I like it before I commit to anything. Now, the other thing I can do here, too. Put that down. You know what? Actually, let's just do this a little bit. Let's do this the easier way. There is an easy way, believe it or not. We're actually going to take knife curve, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of cut like that. There we go. Way easier. Kind of put that in there. A little bit like such. Oh, yeah, that's going to be better. Color. Pop that over here. Build this up. And we'll build another piece to kind of have this come around. Hey, how you doing, Oh? Doing really good. You think something is staring at you? Something might be staring at you for sure. Hold on one second. It's hot in my house. I'm going to open up my... California be stupid hot all of a sudden. And then next week it's going to rain, so it is what it is. Okay, so now we have the simple geometry right here. What I like to do is I'm going to go to crease. I'm going to crease polygroups. Actually, before I do that, let's go to polygroups themselves and group by normals. Because this mesh is super low, and because I use knife curve, it's now like kind of ugly, destroyed mesh, and I want to get better topology. So we'll go polygroups, group by normals, geometry, crease, crease polygroups, and I'm just going to subdivide a few times just to get some density. Right now, it's only 85. It's like nothing. Ian has legs confirmed. I do have legs. Yes. Yes, sir. So we're going to go ahead and subdivide, and then I'm going to delete lower subdivision level. And now I'm going to go ahead and just Z remesh. And the reason why I subdivided then deleted lower is because if you try to Z remesh with only 85 polygons, ZBrush is going to kind of guess what it wants to do. With Z remesher here, I'm giving it a little bit more density, which will make it kind of think along those lines. It'll just give me better topology in the end. So we'll go to geometry, Z remesher, keep groups, keep creases. We'll do a target of 20, and then let's Z remesh. We were in the 60s and the 70s for a week. Now it's snowing. Oh man, send some of that cool weather on over. There we go. So that's still a little dense. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna pick Z remesher in half. Oops, didn't mean to die. No. Cool. Keeping everything low for now. Now, what we're going to do is I kind of want like a real fun shape. I don't want this to be perfectly cylindrical. You know, I want this to have some kind of like shape to it. So let's hold Control and let's get Mesh Project. Now the fun begins. Here. Okay. And we're going to do something really, really cool. So right now, if I use Mesh Project and I do this, you can see here it kind of touches everything. And it's trying to make that shape off of every component here. And I want to change that. So what I do is up here at the top, there's a menu called Picker. Actually, let's just keep it over here for now. So if you go to Picker, select the brush you want, and then go to Orientation, you have Once and Continuous. Oops, wrong button. No, I'm sorry, not Orientation, Depth. You go to Picker, Depth, you have Continuous and Once. Continuous means it's always going to find every point there imaginable that you're hovering over and try to snap the geometry to there. Once is actually going to pick the spot that you started at, and as you draw, it's going to remember that spot. So I'm going to draw this back out, and now I can have this mesh floating right on top. So now we can create a cool little shape of what we want. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just kind of draw something that kind of follows this. It's going to loop around. Conker's going to stand here. Then it'll come here. Okay, let's do that one more time. I like that. There we go. There we go. Let's see here. How can I create a clean, hollow, thick mesh for mold? A hollow, thick mesh. Okay, so I think you mean a shell, essentially. So if you would like to create a hollow... Here, let's go ahead and save this real quick. There's a couple approaches you can take for that. There's a couple approaches you could take for that if you want to use something for a mold. If you have the object that's already digital that you can use, you could just use live boolean to create that mold. So let's start with that method, and then ZModeler would also be your best friend there. That's cool. I never used Project Mesh before. Looks like a very fast way to get shapes. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so let's say I want to make a mold of this guy, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge visible just so that I now have a standalone piece. The man's a superhero attack on the world. Thanks, ADA. So let's say I want to make a mold of this guy. So we can do this in a couple ways. So the way I would choose to do it, or at least attempt, let's give it a shot. So we're going to go to Insert. We're going to do a 3D cube. And I don't like this 3D cube. So a little cool trick that I've discovered is when you bring up any, it doesn't matter. If you bring up a cone, a sphere, an object, just go ahead and hit W, pull up your gizmo, hit this little icon, and then go ahead and hit Polycube. This is a much cleaner cube. It's one of my favorites. So, you know, just food for thought. And then just hit that little gizmo, the little gear icon, and then hit Gizmo 3D, and then you can scale that up. Now let's turn on transparency, which might be a little bit hard to see. There we go. Get a better color for you. Transparency, and now I want to make a mold of this. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of lay him wherever I think he should be. Let's say we're going to make a 2-part mold. So what I'm going to do is put this in a folder, call this mold. And I'm going to put my object, my cube, in there. Now I'm going to put my cube on the top, rename this mold. And then I also know this is a 2-part mold, so I'm going to need to also have this cut in half. So I'm going to insert a plane 3D. Solo that out for a second. Put this on its side. And let's just use ZModeler and drag that out. Now if we turn everything back on, now this is rough. You're always gonna you're going to always want to have you're always gonna want to have actual dimensions if possible. But for just demonstration purposes, we'll have a nice little thing here, and we're gonna call this our cut, kind of our cutter. Wow, I'll spell today. Now, we're going to worry about the cutter last. What we're going to do is focus on the mold piece right now. So I'm going to take my little thing I want to mold, and what I like to do is give just a little bit of an inflate to anything that is going to possibly shrink. So deformation, inflate, maybe like, like 0.3. Nothing too crazy, just something small. But that comes with possible, the more molds you build or the more times you 3D print, it's definitely going to be something that you just kind of have a trial and error about, little test here and there. But now what we're going to do is we're going to turn on live boolean, and now I'm going to set this guy to cut. Now if I turn off solo here, should be cutting the inside of my box right now. But we can't really tell that at the moment because obviously, it's on the inside. And let's make sure there's no subdivision levels. Okay. So now what we're going to do is go underneath. We'll bring our cutter back in. We'll turn that on. We'll set that to cut as well. And then now we're going to come up here and say Boolean folder. Now, if you had subdivision levels or dynamic subdivision levels, you could do that. I prefer not to work with that. That's just optional. But Boolean folder. And it's going to go ahead and cut. Now, we should have something like this that got cut. But we can't really see right now. So let's go ahead and auto group it. Where if you go to polygroups, auto groups. There he is. That's one side. And that's the other. Now, it did also kind of add a little mouth bag in there. So we'll go ahead and just get rid of that. We'll just go ahead and say complete hidden. But now we have a top. There we go. We have a top and a bottom with our mold. And if you wanted to add in any type of pens into your mold, so that way you could actually make sure that it's locating pens so that they locate correctly, that's the time you put those in as well. Or you can just go ahead and do it in 2 different steps. But this is how I would approach making a mold. Now, if you had something like you just wanted to make something hollow, so we have this guy right here, make polymesh 3D, and you wanted to make this hollow and cut in half, what you could end up doing. Come over here. Boop. We can use ZModeler for that. You could break something apart, like cut something in half, and then go ahead and delete it, and then once you then take that edge loop and then extrude it, you can have a hollow object as well. There's another method of shelling, which is under Dynamesh. I haven't done that in a long time, but there is, a create shell. Here, there is a create shell. I believe there's a ZBrush ask for that, and I will pull that up for you, because I actually don't remember how to do that exactly. It's been a long time, but hopefully that that mold making was kind of what you were looking for. 1 second. So if you go to YouTube and do Ask ZBrush and then say shell, you usually get some of the really cool older questions and stuff like that. Hollowing your objects, project shell, all that good stuff. Add thickness, which is kind of what I just showed you. So if you wanted to create something hollow, then you can go and you can watch this one as well, which is on the Pixelogic YouTube channel. So hopefully that helps you out. Let's see. I have a technical question. When exporting FBX to Blender, the model is very small, but when exporting OBJ is the right size. Why is that? Oh, okay. Actually, that plays with two spots. So export, usually in the beginning, if you come down here on the right hand side and you have export, you're gonna want to set this to a 1. That typically will help you out and get the right size as much as possible. The other thing that you could do is there in preference. 1 second. And now they also changed the export location of stuff. Import, export, export. So you could come in here and you can actually set up how you want to export. All of this used to be over here. Now it's just a simple. So check the export and the scale of it, because a lot of times this number could be off, and that will give you a completely different reading. Why it would be happening to OBJ and not FBX, that I can't tell you. That seems a little weird even to me. But I would say before you export, always come down to export and make sure it's at 1, and that should help you out. It could also be something on Blender's side, but I don't know Blender very well to answer that. Yeah, not a problem. So you were doing a Medusa coin. It was Dynameshed. The wing is in... Oh, it's in the air. Okay. You're doing a Medusa coin. It was Dynameshed, but the coin and the wing was in the air. So maybe try merging your... whatever it needs to... It sounds like that might be a merged issue. So maybe maybe make sure that either make sure everything is merged together correctly before you do that with your mold, or as you saw on mine, I had internal geometry as well. So when it went through, you know, I had this little mouth bag in there to make sure that before you mold anything, that your object is completely watertight, and that will help reduce a lot of those problems. Actually, you know what? You know what you absolutely could do? And for those of you who are new, I have a Discord, the IR Sculpts Discord, where we help artists out all the time with small problems like that. So what we can do here is... Let me share a link. If you have Discord, go ahead and click the link below. Jump down to... come on down to my Discord. It's right down here at the bottom. It's free. You just pop in there. You can share your links, and there's always an artist there who's willing to help out. And if we can't figure it out, somebody else, we'll find somebody who can help you out. So, but yeah, sometimes visual representation is key to troubleshooting. So definitely feel free to share there. And then after the stream, I could pop in the Discord and see if there's something happening, or a fellow artist will help you out too. All right, let's get back to our beautiful, look at this, our beautiful mesh. So we are just kind of creating nice, fun, grossness. Okay. Whee! Now, because I'm that type of sculptor that likes to just shove mesh around until I get what I want, I'm just going to kind of dig this in a little bit and create that ramp the way we are looking for it. Not a problem. Absolutely. Happy to help. Emperor of Cheese. That has to be, by far, like one of the coolest names I've seen in a while. It is awesome. How you doing? And yes, to answer your question, we are sculpting a scene from Conker's Bad Fur Day. It is going to be a 3D printable file, and it's going to be game ready, but to kind of throw into VR as like a digital collectible. Not like an NFT or anything, but just something to put in the realm of the digital world, because why not? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Okay. We're going to kind of drop that part down a bit. Almost get this smooth in there a little bit. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start doing a light smooth here. I'm gonna approach this very sculptural-esque. So I'm not really caring about the geometry. I'm just kind of shoving clay around until I see what I want to see. And then we'll start placing some characters in here to get the reference and such the way we want it. But he's supposed to be in a giant world of poo, so we get to kind of just make this funky. Yo, sweet corn! Thank you, guys. Thank you. Matt! What is up? What is up, dude? Welcome in, welcome in. Okay. Gonna be one of those environments where it's all gonna be weird until we get those characters in place. Okay, what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna dynamesh this ramp so I can get it a little bit more cleaned up. But essentially, that's gonna be the idea of how this will be laid out. A lot of times, what will happen is you'll kind of just, at least the way I do things, is kind of just move stuff around until it's looking the way I want it. I'm gonna auto group this real quick. Get this internal structure bit. Now, the other cool thing is what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a backside to this. So we got the front side and we're going to make the backside. The reason why there's going to be a backside is because that's where the money cave is going to be. So we're going to look in and see the money that he's going to try to win. If you guys have ever played Conker, then you know. So let's get this real quick. And let's create this little base right here. Right there. And let's split. Let's go ahead and split hidden. So let's go ahead and go to polygroups, auto groups. And let's just split hidden on that. Ah, man, no worries. Never have to apologize, brother. Always just happy to have you here. Here. You know what? Let's put this here. That way you guys can see. I need to get my menu sorted. Okay. We're going to drag this down. Kind of reset this. Now I'm going to kind of have this floating a little bit. Bring some depth to everything. Go. Actually, you know what? Let's drag this low like this. Gonna mask off this section. Then I'm gonna take the clip curve and clip right underneath it. Like that. Kind of shove that in there. There we go. Building an environment. And, oh, you know what? Because we're going to make kind of like a little prison shell thing. Go ahead and let's grab our basic primitive. We'll grab a simple sphere. We'll just grab a polysphere. Drag this up like that. There we go. And we're going to split hidden on this. Now, we're just going to go ahead and select rec. What we want to keep, that side right there. I'm going to go ahead and delete hidden. I'm going to mask this section off. After, let's throw it in here for a little bit. Right? Mask this section. That it's part of the cave. Now, what we're going to do is turn on double. So we're going to go to display properties down here at the bottom right. Turn on double, so that way we can kind of see how that world's working. So basically, we're making like just a fun diorama. And now we were talking about making something with some thickness, but it's hollow on the inside, right? So this is where that's turn off double for a second. Now here's a cool trick if you really want to see something really, really fun. So if you have double and you have the face of the polygroup that you want to extrude and you push it in and you turn off double, it inverts it, right? Well, check this out. If you have double, okay, let's back that up. You have double turned on. Go ahead and flip that rotation in, turn on double, push that in, and then when you turn off double, it's right side out. Just in case if anybody was wondering. If I did that too fast, I'll back up for a second. If you have a single-sided mesh, right? You have a single-sided mesh, and you want to actually, it's the outside, and you want to make that, you want to like just extrude that in, but you have double turned on. Just flip normal anyway. Go ahead and extrude it inwards, turn double off, and it's the right side. And it is done. Now it's going to be a very asymmetrical world right now. Yep. Okay. There we go. Hey, Jose. No, sorry. No, I only speak English on this stream. But if you have a question, I can try to use Google Translate. Okay. I always have it on standby. Oh, you understand? Okay. Okay. Cool. I was prepping Google Translate. Okay. So now we have this kind of base blocked out. What I like to do is before moving too far forward with the rest of the environment, it's good to bring in the characters and then also have some sort of scale. That scale is going to determine a lot of things about the environment itself and really give us an idea of how to approach the rest of the piece, which is why I have everything else kind of loaded up here. So, first things first, I'm going to delete what I don't need, which I don't need that right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to go ahead and merge visible and then get rid of all the things I don't need. I'm going to merge visible with this money. And then I'm going to delete lower. Same with the Poo Monster right now. I'm going to go ahead and merge visible, and then we'll delete all that stuff just so we don't crowd it. And then with Conker right now, we're going to go ahead and merge visible again. And then, of course, we'll just go ahead and delete what we don't need. And now we're going to go ahead and copy. Start with the Great Mighty Pooh himself. Copy. Now, actually, before we do that, you want to make sure that your polygons or that your model is not overwhelming you. So for this, we're going to decimate each one. So let's go to Z plugin, decimation master, and we're just going to go ahead and, for the sake of moving forward with some ease, we're just going to go ahead and say 250,000. We're going to decimate it down so that way we can just kind of plop it in there and see what it looks like. Get the environment built, and then we can move forward. This might take a second. How is everybody's Sunday happening? Anybody watching the game? I said earlier today I'm not really into sports and stuff, but I think it's always cool that the Super Bowl is a big deal. I like peeking in on the halftime show and like seeing who was the artist who sang and all the ads and stuff. I think they're pretty cool, but process. Okay. Now this is 4.5 mil, and we're taking it down to like 250,000. So if it ends up not being the best, that's okay. Again, they're just placeholders. What's really cool is I'll show you a cool trick about keeping the color without really worrying about too much of the geometry itself. Which, there you go, there's that. So I'm going to Control Z, tap a little history marker by holding Control and tapping. And then we're just going to project the color real quick. That way we can have the color in there and have the low sweet resolution. Copy that. And now we're going to make a new folder after we paste. We're going to make a new folder. We're going to call this temp characters. This will just make sure that all of our characters are in there. And what's neat is we're going to hide him. I'm going to select this. We're going to select all that. We're actually going to rotate this whole thing facing forward the way we want to see it. Now we turn this guy on. Now we can scale him and position him where we think it'll fit. That's going to be pretty cool. Well, that's a good spot. We'll do the same thing for all the other characters. Let's save it real fast before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Hey, what's going on? Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All is well. Not watching the game. Not not a sports guy myself, unless they start fighting during the hockey match. I have to admit, I like hockey for that very reason. It's always kind of fun. Like I don't, yeah, I guess I'll watch it, but whenever there's like a little battle, they'll be like, ooh, got interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and paste in our corn. Now, he's obviously way too big, so we're going to scale him back down to an appropriate size. And I will tell you, he's going to be up here, kind of facing this way, so that's where we'll stick him. And that's already starting to show the scene itself. You'd be surprised how fast scale will really introduce you to making a scene feel more alive, which is nice. Now, this bag of money is only 9.5 mil, so let's see if we can break him down a little smaller. I'm the great mighty Pooh. I wish. Oh man, what is the? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to get that soundtrack. It's probably copyright. Never mind. What's up, Living Vortex? What's up? Hello, hello, Octavian. Welcome in, welcome in. We're doing some crunching real quick. The most boring part about being an artist is this blue bar. Slowly watching it creep. Like my corn piece right here. How was my weekend? My weekend was actually pretty good. I had a computer scare a couple hours ago. It started like acting up and lagging. But I think it was OBS because there was a massive update. I was in the Discord sharing my screen, and then all of a sudden, like, everything locked up. So I had to do a whole PC health sweep from testing the RAM, all my hard drives, the temperature, making sure everything was connected correctly. All is good on the hardware side. So I went ahead and just started updating firmware. And OBS was the last one that needed to be updated, so I updated that, and it seems to be fine. We're streaming. So, yep. Sparks, what's happening? Yay, I made it just for work. How you awesome, dude. Awesome. Awesome to have you here, man. How's your guys' weekend going so far? Or how's your Monday if you are on the other side of the world? Now, I will tell you guys real quick, the reason why we're projecting color back on, if anybody asked, was to the last of my ability, and we can try it on the next one. There is a keep UVs, keep poly paint button, but on the quick selections down at the bottom, I don't think it keeps the color even if you select that. We could try it on the next one on Conker, but for some reason, I remember trying it like a year ago, and it didn't work, but I just thought of that, and if anybody was wondering, so that's why I do that that nice project color, and that gets it right back to where we want. But we'll try it. I'm so excited to just be sculpting. Just don't want to stop. I know, right? Absolutely. Okay, so we have this. Now, obviously, it didn't capture all the cool details that we had there, but that's okay. These are just temp posts. We're going to paste him in here. And now money is relatively tiny, so we're going to put him in here. And he's going to be our guy. We're actually going to duplicate him real quick. I'm curious on something. I'm going to duplicate him real quick, and I just want to see, for the sake of seeing, we go polygroups, auto, yes. Oh my goodness. Yep, we're going to go ahead and delete hidden on that. Bring that up. This will make the scene a whole lot more interesting. There we go. Yes. This is why it's good to kind of throw in your ideas, because you never know. I didn't think of this initially. I was just gonna have him standing by himself, but now that he's here, like, yeah, he just looks a little lonely. So if we have a couple stacks back there, that's gonna help us out tremendously. Let's go ahead and save that. This is still our blockout. We're just now bringing every character in here and making sure that it works for us. Now, so with Conker right here, we're going to go, again, I don't think it'll work, but let's just try it. Use and keep poly paint. Down here are presets, and I think that's why it doesn't work, but we'll go ahead and give it a shot. And then we'll just go ahead and say here. So it's super important to remember that anytime you're doing big, some sort of like diorama, or you're trying to block out a piece, it's always good to just take all your assets and bring them in as you see them, because the visualization is what's really going to help that piece come to life over time. Having an idea and then kind of like even just sketching, even if you're not a good artist, like 2D artist, and you're just like, I 3D, but I don't get 2D, doesn't matter. Stick figure it out. Just draw it. It just helps so much more. And that's what I do. I don't consider myself a 2D artist whatsoever, but sometimes I'll throw up Photoshop. I'll just sketch an idea. In this case, because it's such a big scene and I knew all the pieces already, this is what I like to do. Just block it out and see what happens. Our harem of $1 bills, y'all. That's right, man. That's right. This blue bar. And then I was thinking, so we're going to be doing a little bit of retopoing here in a minute once we get the scene blocked out, and the environment's kind of where we like it. I go until 8, so we have a couple hours, so we should get most of that environment sculpted. And then, now, I will say, because there is no plans to animate right now, we're going to work on getting our ZBrush, or our geometry, ZBrush as best as we can to accept UVs to bring into other programs later, because I will be taking this through Substance and then eventually rendering it out in like Unreal Engine 4 or even Marmoset Toolbag. So there is plans to have really clean mesh, but we don't need to retopo everything if there's no animation involved. So we're going to be focusing on just retopoing the stuff that makes sense, but covering some of that aspect with ZRetopo, and then the rest we could just kind of cover with ZBrusher. Hello from Jamaica again. Hello! How you doing, Jace? Aw, that's awesome. I try to be. Life is good. Life is too serious to not be happy. That was probably the cheesiest quote, but that's how I feel. Alright, so let's see. Did it keep the color? It kept the color. It kept the color. I am... Okay, so use this. Use and keep poly paint and use the presets. There you go. Do that. Don't do the project. Alright, and let's go ahead and paste him in here. Now, this is the true... The true test on how this is all going to come out. I want to make sure that the scale makes sense. And yeah, I think that actually works out pretty well. Look at that. Okay, great. So with that being said, I think we have our scene blocked out. Now we're going to go ahead and refine the actual texturing of this. We're going to do that sculpturally, and then we're going to go ahead and get that cleaned up. So let's move into it. Color, fill object with that nasty brown color. All right, we got our temp characters, which is good. And because we have a folder for that, let's go ahead and actually let's duplicate this guy right here. I'll tell you why we're doing that. We're going to call this the E. Okay. Stick all that in its own folder. Now, with this guy right here, what I'm going to do is we're just going to go to initialize, and we're just going to Q-cube that. The reason why I like to Q-cube the very first subtool is because that takes the name component. We're going to pop that in there. And then that way, when we save it, that first subtool will be named our thing. So we're going to go here, block out. Perfect. And now we can focus in on the rest. So while we're doing this, we can just hide our characters. And let's start getting stuff done, work together. Now I'm going to insert a cylinder 3D. Scale this down. So, and this will be kind of liquid transparency. Sounds gross even thinking about that. So let's use ZModeler and EZM. I'm hitting everything else. Hover over an edge, insert multi-edge, keep polygroup. And we're just going to go ahead and just give us some resolution. I'm going to skip every other one. Oh, that. There we go. And so we're going to rename this liquid. That's all. That's what it's getting renamed. And now let's go ahead and actually sample color from our scene. So let's go to Z plugin and let's go to Z color. And what Z color does, so this is really cool. So Z color will help you pick colors that are not within ZBrush. So this is my pure ref right here, and I always have that on top. It's free software. It just helps you have all your reference. Well, if I hit C over that, it's never going to let me select that color. In ZBrush, if I hit polygroups and then try to select a color, I could select the polygroup color, right? But I could bring in an image, a texture image, if I wanted to, but that's not going to help me out. So Z color, I bring this up, I drag this, and I click and drag this bottom one, and now I can pick a different color that is within my pure ref, and then I hit set color, and there it is. That's the color. And then we'll go ahead and we'll go to color and fill object. And now our liquid is in there. May look like a cylinder, but it's the liquid incarnate. That's right. That's how fast you change a cylinder into what you see. All right. Oops. Hitting that tool. There we go. Now let's go ahead and get this environment kind of merged together. So I'm going to merge all of the important stuff together. So the base itself, this space right here, I'm going to stick this on the bottom. I'm going to subdivide a little bit after we kind of give it a little bit of some love. We're going to go to polygroup, group by normals, increase polygroups, and now we're going to subdivide a few times, making that just a little bit better. You know what? Yeah, we'll do that for now because we're just going to dynamesh it. We're going to merge things together. Okay, so let's merge this piece right here, merge down. Merge down. Yep. There we go. And merge down one more time. And before we get too crazy, we're just going to go ahead and save as a block out year one. Yep, it'll also help select more accurate colors in case of sculpting according to reference. Absolutely. 3v1, yep. That's actually how I found the Z color. Just because most of anybody who's trying to apply for a character artist, you're going to be using concept a lot. So yeah, if there's a color established, best way to grab it. All right. We're going to have this actually be kind of a mound. A nasty little mound. like a little ramp he has to walk up to. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to just Dynamesh this together. So what's really cool about ZBrush in the new 2022 version, there is Dynamesh Picker, which is really helpful when you're trying to set resolution. So if you go to Geometry, Dynamesh, there's a picker. And what you can do is click and hold this, and this will kind of help you look around for the heaviest resolution that you have. And then you can just Dynamesh based on that resolution, which should give you a pretty good result and kind of help merge your world together. So I really love this Dynamesh picker. And if it ends up being too heavy, then you can always Control Z and then you can dial it back just a little bit. But at least then you know the range in which like you don't have to guess what that resolution is. You end up knowing. Nice. Now I'm gonna bring in a brush that I built. I built it off camera. It was just kind of a playing around during the week, and I found something. Kind of helped me get the look and feel of what we're going for. So I'm gonna load brush. I believe I saved it here. I called it the Mighty Poo brush. And it really is just the clay brush with alpha, 18? And then it's just a little bit of modifiers. Nothing too crazy. Now let's make sure we don't have dynamic turned on. Yep, that's what it is. It's feeling like we had dynamic turned on. If you have Dynamesh selected, turn that back on for a second. If you have a Dynamesh part and you don't have any subdivisions, but it's feeling really laggy, go to dynamic subdiv and make sure that that's turned off. That is going to kill a lot of computers. So always make sure that's turned off. Now we're just going to kind of blend this all together using this Mighty Poo brush. Really just kind of like a fill brush in me. That's mind-blowing. I've always struggled, always worried about losing detail. Yep, guessing res. Yeah, guessing res is such a pain. Looks like you're sculpting chocolate, but we all know it's not chocolate. Yeah, we know it's not chocolate. Although, I don't know, if the scene calls for it, and this is why it's mainly going to be a digital collectible. Again, not NFT. I'm not doing that for this piece. I was wanting the chocolate to be floating back here, so I think we will make a piece of chocolate from the game as well and get that in there. I think it'll be fun. Bring a little bit more life and love into the piece. And then when we go to 3D print it, maybe I'll make like little thin pens that hide the chocolate but makes it look like it's floating. We can have some fun with that as we prep for 3D print. Cover a lot of that stuff, which is great. You know what is funny though is on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts, I follow a lot of chefs who do sculpt chocolate. Super fascinating. I love watching traditional sculptors work. For some reason, I feel like it gives me ideas when I'm in ZBrush and I know the advantages I have of working digitally. But I think it's cool to watch it like actually be, like a traditional approach to things. I'm going to adjust this focal shift and bring more of a harder edge to this. I want the surface to be a little noisy. And I'm going to try to bring in as much texturing as I can into the sculpt, since we will be doing a 3D printed version as well. you can see, like, this is why my brush is this, because it has, like, I don't know, it might be hard to see. Let me see if I can do this. You do, like, a matte cap. Has this, like, noise element to it. Gives me a little bit of just information. Not so clean. And where that's generated is actually under brush here. Alpha texture. I have alpha 4 on there. You just solved my problem. The dynamic mesh. After merging eyebrows, the dynamics have been carried over. Yep, you are so welcome. But yeah, that's always good. I watched Ryan Kingsley take more of a 2D approach while sculpting a head using forms and such. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's just, you can learn so much from so many different artists, you know. One of the things that I really loved about the 3D Character Workshop when I first joined that a couple years ago was Shane's approach to, you know, his Disney look, and he would just admire the 2D approach to how they do things and those blockouts, and it was so neat to be able to learn from that and then apply that in your own way. It all ends up helping. Okay, so I want to add some, like, layering effects. And so there's a cool brush called Layer. And what's really cool is I'm just going to kind of go through and hit 1 a bunch of times, which does a repeat. But it's just going to come through and kind of give me a little bit of layering. Then I can emphasize those layers with, like, a damn standard or something. So that we can get that kind of, maybe toilet fishbowl effect. What's funny is I know a lot of I have this, like, I don't know if you hear it in my voice, but, like, for like a second I'm like, there's no clean way to say that. Alright, we're gonna raise that up a bit and kind of tilt that down. I feel like this is too perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of have this droop down a little bit. And now I'm going to take just the regular clay buildup, or just the clay brush, and kind of come through here a little bit. Now, I'm not worried about the bottom of this. No matter how much I mess this part up, we're just going to end up cutting the bottom off to make a flat surface when we're ready. So until then, I'm not really concerned with how perfect that bottom is. I sculpt over it, I sculpt over it. Right now, we're just kind of looking for effects. There we go. Yeah, how he uses the spheres, where the circles would be. Exactly, yep. They would have an eye line already in place, yep. And then there's also a cube. Yeah, yep. And she pretty much controls the sculpts no matter how they are. Yep, I know, it's great. So I'm just using the layer brush right now, and again, I'm actually kind of just cutting in little bits here and there. So I'm cutting in and then exaggerating. Now the layer brush brings in the texturing underneath, just kind of like how the standard brush does. If I were to take the standard brush and just kind of draw through, that will take whatever texture is underneath and just bring that to the surface, but it kind of bubbles it and stretches it a bit. the layer brush actually does a really good job with bringing that texture underneath without distorting it too much. But it also has its own little texture to it, so it helps me get a little bit more of that gritty nastiness. It's also really good for wounds. If like battle scars, you're trying to dig in, but you know, damn standard isn't quite working for you. Layer brush, give it a shot, add a texture, whatever you think to it, and you'd be amazed just how powerful that really is. Now we're going to go ahead and Dynamesh that real quick. There we go. Just coming through, and I'm just lightly going over, getting that effect. Now here, I want this to kind of round out a little bit, so I'm going to take the Trim Dynamic. Put this, that's where my face is at. Second. So many menus. So I'm going to take the Trim Dynamic, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of round out some of these edges here, where I want that transition to happen. Because these are too perfect, you know? We're going to give it kind of a lip. That back over there. Then we'll go right back to the layer brush. Give us a little bit of texture. And then I'm going to bring back my poo brush that I built. And then we'll go ahead and kind of like blend in some of these areas. I'm also kind of thinking like how a road would be. You know, rows kind of bow a little bit. They're not perfectly flat like a street. You know, they're kind of convex a little bit. I think that's the proper term. So I'm kind of building up that middle section for that very reason, to give that a little bit more of an inconsistent, not so perfect feel. I also love just having to use the textures within the brush, not be so perfect. Really cool. I'll just come back over with my poo brush here. Kind of almost fill that in. So just layer. Go back and forth a little bit. And I'm actually going to use the regular clay and just kind of pile that in. Smooth out these areas here. Oh, got a hole. Okay, if you ever get a hole like this that just generated, check the back of the mesh. Come back here. Kind of back that up a little bit. Yep. If this keeps happening, what you could do is go close holes. Mesh integrity, check mesh integrity. There's 3 edges that were not completely accurate. Then we can go to, where are you? Modify topology, weld points, and then fix mesh integrity. Try to re-dynamesh that. That doesn't work. Always a really awesome inflate. The inflate brush is your friend. Look at that. Fixes holes like a champ. Let's see here. Let's make sure we save it, and then we'll continue forward using backface mask. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, carved contour. Yeah, the carved contours. Yeah, I can see that's myself trying to sneak by unnoticed. Shimmy, I don't know the correct one. Hardcore? Yeah. Sort of seems like Assassin's Creed. Yep. Yeah. Also shows how sturdy the rocks are if they are solid or... Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. You're welcome. Yeah, half the battle with getting this, getting things built is just trying to figure out the best way to approach it. And then when things break, fix it. Backface mask is your best friend. If you don't know where that is at, just go to brush, auto masking, and then turn on backface mask. That is per brush. I kind of wish it was on by default all the time. I use it so much. But that helps you protect the backside of your mesh while you're giving the other side of the mesh a little bit of love. Okay, let's go back to our Mighty Pooh brush and backface turn on. There we go. Kind of build up some clumpies, and then we'll layer this as well with the layer brush. Go. Exactly. Right imperfection's always good. Okay, if you're having trouble zooming in on something because the mesh is getting in your way, just make sure to hide it. Hit solo, get in there. We could fix that. I'm going to use smooth and then rebuild that back up. Because this will have like a virtual element to it, I want to treat the things I'm not seeing as much with importance, because you'll be able to zoom in on VR and actually see that that mesh. So want to make sure that it's every aspect is treated with care. Because I imagine this too like a video game level. My character were to, if that was me, I'd walk my little character in there and then kind of look up. Okay, now Conker needs to be moved based on what we've done with this section. Gonna use the Move Infinite brush real quick. Kind of bring this up here. Go. Go. We'll end up posing him when we need to. We're just kind of putting him in a good position. Go. There we go. All right, let's texture this outside, and then let's get to maybe posing and some retopoing. Go ahead and save this. I love having this little corn guy here. All right, just building this up. Another thing that I find super important, especially when you're building up, like kind of rocky, textury areas like this, is try to keep those, try to keep the textures going the right way. What I mean is the same direction. You know, you don't want to be doing this and then going up and down. It's just not going to look right. So when you're building up forms, picking a direction and just going side to side or back and forth or up and down, whatever the texture calls for, really important because it'll help it look a little bit more natural and realistic, even if it is super stylized. You just go back and forth. So I'm keeping that same direction in mind the whole time. Now let's get that ZBrush built. Go. And we'll still detail this a little bit more later, but right now this will be good enough for what we need to finish. We're going to use a little poly paint too here. So we're going to get a darker color, which I actually have here in the Poo monster itself. Solo this out. Let's get our paintbrush. I'm going to paint the inside a little bit. It will matter when we do some sort of transparency render. Let's also go RGB intensity really light. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go up to stroke, turn up my lazy mouse a little bit. Make a continuous stroke and hit 1 a few times. Get a little bit of just coloring in there. Now I have the base color that I worked with. I'm going to paint back just a little bit. Kind of blend that in. Just going to kind of layer my painting. Helps it look a little bit more natural. Starting to come together. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's kind of detail this a little bit, make it look a little bit more rockier. And then from there, yeah, I think we're ready to move on. What is it? 6:23. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Orb series brush. I really like them for cutting in cracks or nicks or dings. I have them just directly installed, but Orb's cracks is really, really good. What I like to do is turn on RGB with a much darker color. And then that intensity. And that's going to help define some of that natural AO as well as just getting in a little bit more texture. And I'm just going to follow some areas that I think need to be brought to my attention. But I'm not going to do too many of them. We'll come up like this. That. Is that yellow? Is that floating yellow character his tooth? It is. Yep. Yeah. So the reason why I put that character up there is just because he's going to be holding that character. So that's just placeholder. But yeah, that is one of his teeth. Yep. You can see if you take that texture and you kind of just like follow it with the cracks, just brings it all to life for me. I think it looks great. Just yeah, it really comes together, which is hit one on the keyboard if you want to repeat a stroke. Just remember, don't do a stroke and then move around and then try to hit one, because it's gonna repeat that movement. Since ZBrush does count movements in the viewport as a stroke, so that's a stroke. So if I move around, I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna do something weird. Nobody wants that. Look at all that nastiness. Let's actually take the layer brush and let's kind of define some of this inside. Now, while this is perfectly, you know, the inside is perfectly round, what we could do, kind of just to give us a little bit of room, kind of stretch that a bit. That brings up a little bit more. Love the facial expression. Like what just happened. Normally when I lose a tooth back my childhood, I would have had the exact same look. So it's nice to see the tables have turned. Yeah, right. Yep. There we go. All right. I'll have to build some sort of little fence or gate or something, because obviously he can't get to that money yet, but we don't want to hide it, so we'll put that on kind of on the back burner of what I'll put there. But for now, nice to kind of to know that right there will be what it is. You know what? Yeah, see, so this area feels a little loose. Feels empty to me. So maybe we'll put like a piece of chocolate or something there. So let's build a piece of chocolate that we could stick there. I think that'd be pretty cool. And maybe some lights too, because you see here, there's a torch back there. I think we should definitely maybe stick some torches in there as well to give us a little bit more of that ambient lighting that then we can use even in the render, make it that much better. So let's put a pen on the detailing aspect, although I do see one spot right here, so we will take the time to, that will drive me nuts and I'll probably forget about it later. Look at that layer brush. I'm telling you. Don't sleep on the layer brush, guys. It's one of my favorites. All right. Cool. Let's go ahead and save it. And then now let's... Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to... How do I want to do this? I got it. We're going to use nanomesh. There we go. Okay. Boop. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to make a torch that then we can have repeating. And then we're going to use nanomesh and kind of stick it where we want it to be. So I'm going to grab a plane and I'm going to drag that plane where I want it to be. So I'm going to hit B, I, and then H. That is the half insert perimeter. Primitive, not perimeter. It is the INM primitive half brush. So everything is halved. You have little half shells here, which you could use to shell things. So going back to there, but we have a single poly, and what we're gonna do is we are going to drag some planes down here. And I'm going to go to split, and we're going to split mass points. I'm going to keep guys together. Such. And now I'm going to put down these polys where I want a torch to be. So I think we'll put a torch there. Maybe one there. I'm thinking torches on the side for some reason, but at the moment, there we go. Okay, now we're going to want to make sure that these are all the same poly group. So usually they would be, but drawing them out, sometimes it could be different. So just have them all selected, make sure there's no mask, and then go ahead and click Control W. And if there is Dynamesh on him, turn that sucker off, because we don't need that right now. So those are going to be our placeholders. And what we're going to do is call these our torch placements. Now we're going to build a torch that we want to then put in that place. I'm actually going to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to insert a cylinder. I'm going to delete this Conker guy. So delete other. That's fine. Build a torch. Put this down. And what we're going to do is I'm going to edge loop. Delete loops. Now, might... Looking at that torch, I can't tell if it's round or if it's square, but I'm going to go with round, because why not? I like that idea. It pretty much already sets the scene ahead of time. Yep, exactly. Okay, so now we're going to use the modeler brush. And what I'd like to do is I'm just going to go ahead. Bring this here. Hover over the edge. Let's do single loop. Scale that down. Hover over this face. Here, up a little bit, add a loop here, scale that down. Okay, I think that's going to work out pretty well. I add here. Something like such. Yeah, that works out great. And what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to use QMesh. I'm going to type here, 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 here. Yep, just like that. I'm going to add an edge loop somewhere around there. Now I'm going to go to QMesh. Kind of push that down. Look at that. That's cool. Now, that snapped to the inside and the outside, but I kind of don't like that edge. I'm going to make sure that I have something like that when I push that down. Gives me a little bit more control. Actually, you know what we're going to do? Back this up for a second. Add this one here. I want a little bit of thickness. Such. Push that down. Such. You know, I kind of liked it the way it was the first time. There we go. That's a little bit better. You can always bring this in a little bit. Hover over this edge. Give that a different poly loop. Kind of bring that in a bit. Just for a little bit more thickness. There we go, yeah. Yes. Yeah, if you want to make a scar or some sort of wound, layer brush is perfect for that. Because what you could do... I'm going to go ahead and save this real quick, and I can show you. Call this a torch. Torch. Oh, torch. What you could do... So let's bring in our Conker real quick. And let's say I want to give Conker some... I want to give him some scarring, right? Or I want to cut him open a little bit. So let's just take him on the cheek for a second. So if I want to make a scar, what I could do with the layer brush, I could take this layer brush, right? And I could just add a little bit of a gritty texture if I want. But what's really neat is, let's give him some resolution real fast. So if you want any type of scarring, that layer brush gives you a lot of detail, and it just kind of helps build up. So you can kind of build up little chunks here and there. You want to give it just a little bit of that kind of nastiness. And because it builds up on top of itself, just with the right texture and a little bit of, you know, a little bit of finessing, yeah, you can get a pretty interesting scar. Now, if you want to get like a wound built in, same thing, just hold Alt, right? And just start cutting in. Because what the layer brush is doing is it's actually every stroke, it's identifying continuously where that cut is going to be, or where that stroke is going to be. So you can dig deep in one section, and then you can actually layer on top of it, kind of help inflate, right? You can also introduce some really cool coloring. So I could take like a deep red, turn on RGB, right? And I could start like giving him that wound look. And the more I cut in, the more that color starts going, right? So you can really add some surface. And the same with the scar itself, you know. Start adding a little bit of that kind of pinkish, fleshy tone that scars usually are. And just in a few minutes, you have something that could resemble a scar, especially when it's from afar. So, yeah, absolutely, layer brush is your best friend. And I'm using Alpha, where are we? Alpha 20. There you go. Scars and cuts, layer brush. Go ahead and come back here, the edge, insert, and I'll model in some supporting edge loops here. that, what we could do, we could just go polygroups, group and normals. Increase polygroups, and then what I can do is uncrease the things I don't want. I don't want that. Increase. Click on that whole edge loop. Yeah, not a problem. Absolutely. Okay. What I want to do with this right here is I actually want to kind of drag that down a little bit. There we go. Not worried about this section because this actually will be kind of hidden, so I'm not too worried about that. But what we can do is actually come on here, insert multi-edge, and we'll just go ahead and give us a little bit of... Just do single edge loop. Yeah, add some information where we think we need it. Right. Okay, we got some sort of torch. Let's actually give it kind of that wood color. It's gonna be kind of hard because it definitely is gonna look like the rest. So maybe let's lean more towards like a pine color. There we go. And now let's go ahead and subdivide a few times. Make sure dynamic turned off. I keep doing that. I should just apply the dynamic already. Okay. Now we're gonna add some good texture, and we're just gonna carve this in by hand. We're gonna take orb carve. I'm just gonna carve this in kind of in a stylized format. I think wood should be. Add like a little knot here or there, a little bump. You guys have seen me do this before when we did the bokoblin statue. If not, it's just the orb curve. Really cool brush. Keep all your textures going the same way. Okay. We're gonna make this into fun little nano brush. Then we can place in real quick. Get our seams going. I don't want to make it too dense. Go. Yep, that's totally fine. Darker. Which what we're going to do is actually go to color, fill object, and then I like to go to masking. That's what I like. Go to cavity, and let's go 100% cavity infill. Gonna go ahead, color that. A quick way to do it, and then we'll add a little bit of TLC. But let's make sure that this actually is going to save. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to my color for a second. And I'm going to make sure that the color is actually like pretty low, because I'm going to fill the color back with the base color and give it just a little bit of a fade in there, so it's not super powerful. Now I'm going to come back in just some finer edges where I think they might need to be. Yeah. 1 second, my throat is. Yeah, a little folklore, just a little bit of something. You know, I like to like throw my ideas out as fast as possible, and then when I look back, if I find something that just doesn't look right, then I fix it. But yeah, getting a little bit of texture always helps. 1 second. Gonna get some water. Okay. And then, oh, okay, we still have time. I wanted to definitely showcase a little bit of retopoing, because there's some stuff I wanted to kind of fix. I think I actually want to retopo all of the Great Mighty Pooh, because I have his nails separate, but I'm also kind of digging, so I don't know. Now, here's another really cool thing. If you want to add a little bit of realism, and you don't want to do everything by hand, what we can do is go to Texture up in the Lightbox. And at the Lightbox, we have all these different textures that we can use that come stock with ZBrush. And down here towards the bottom is definitely some wood texturing. So we have some clumpy, like, almost like bark texture. But we can double click this, and that will throw us in the image here. Click this, and then we're just going to go ahead and say, make alpha. Now we have an alpha texture here. I'm going to pull up the standard brush. So if we wanted to add a little bit of texturing, this might be a little strong. Also, maybe not high enough resolution for what we want to do. We could definitely have a little bit of that in there if we wanted to. I don't think that looks right, but I think you get what I mean. So let's actually look for. I want something with a little bit more wood grain. I know there's one down here. Wood 2. Oh. Double click that. Go ahead and make alpha. Yeah. Add that texture. Perfect. Resolution a little bit. Yeah, we might go with that later. Let's not deal with that now, just because I feel like that's distracting me, but you get the sense of it. Let's actually paint a little bit, and then let's make this an official alpha. I want to keep this. I want to avoid creating too much details until the piece is final. So let's not do that. Go. Kind of poly paint this a little bit. Go to stroke. Let's turn that down a bit. Kind of paint our own little ambient occlusion. Let's worry about the rest of the details later. Right now, I think that will be our torch. Let's save it. Now, what's really cool about any brush you have, you can just make something a brush, and then from there you can make that a nano brush. So what we're going to do is, with this torch selected, we're going to hit B, and we're going to just go ahead and say create insert mesh. And we'll say brand new. Now we have our torch, right? Now actually we're going to leave this here like such. We're going to have it coming from the top down. And let's insert that last one. Yeah, let's say new. And now I'm going to go ahead and we'll make this a nano brush. So that might be hard to see down there. Let's open up the brush palette. So when you make a new brush, so you say create insert mesh, then from there you can turn around and say create nano mesh brush. And now that makes this brush a nano mesh brush. So how does that work? So let's go back to our other scene. Let's real quick save this one more time. Okay, now we have our scene here. And we have our nano mesh brush, right? So if I go ahead and hover over one of these faces, it's automatically going to say the selected nano mesh. And then if we hover over an edge, it does nothing. Over a point, it should do nothing. Now we can drag out torch on every poly group. Just like that. Yep. Now from here, we can go nano mesh, edit mesh. Might be a little hard to see, so let me do this real quick. Now we can actually work on the details of our mesh, and it will update on the fly. Now we can come through here. Let's go ahead and start. Just for real demonstration purposes, I'm going to paint black underneath here and start to see that update as we work, which is super cool. We come back to the scene itself for a minute. So see, there you go. There's that black spot right there. Now, if we come back here for a second, what we can do is we can hide what is there. We can also hide the placement. So you see these those placements that we have down there? If we go show placement, that's turned on. If we click that, that hides that. Now we don't have to worry about all of that stuff. Now, if you make a mistake, it's okay to go ahead and just go back in time, grab your nano mesh brush, and then start over. Whatever is easiest for you, go ahead and do that. There we go. Just do note that when you do nano mesh this way, what's going to happen is if you hit edit and then you start, it brings you up a new timeline. And so when you start painting or doing whatever it is you need to do, you start coming through, right? And then you see the history being built. Well, what will happen is if you go unedit mesh, gonna get rid of that history. So when you hit edit mesh again, it creates a new history. Be very careful when going back and forth between edit mesh. You can't just edit it, come back, and then expect to be back in your history. You want to do all your changes there as much as possible. But this is a good way to get everything kind of set up the way you think it should be. So we're going to have some really cool lighting back here with him, and then some other lighting right there. And when you're happy, just go down to nano mesh, and then from there, inventory, 1 to mesh, and you should be good to go. And it'll make everything an actual mesh. But you can always adjust the height of things, width of it, the scale, all that good jazz. Oh, so it's like more modular. Yep. And I'm not sure if the term, but like pre-composed. So you work on one and it's automated. Yeah. I don't know if that's the correct term, but that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. I don't know if the term is correct either. Yeah. It is definitely more, yeah. Now I blanked on the term. But yes, it is exactly what you're saying. It is definitely a little bit more streamlined, so it's more automated. We'll use that term for now because I'm blanking. But yeah, you get to work on one asset and then it propagates through all the other assets. Now those assets will look identical to each other, so you do want to be careful. If you want to make individual changes, definitely 1 to mesh and then go in and make those sculptural changes. But for something like a torch, nobody's going to go in and be like, that's the exact same torch as that one. Like, you know, especially with games and stuff, but yeah. And the beauty part is being able to click edit. And then what's really cool is you have all these different placements and stuff like that for the screen to work with. So, you know, kind of make your changes, focus on the one side, and then get that the way you want. So this is where we can spend the rest of that time detailing as much as possible. What I recommend is always leave that nano mesh set so you can edit it as you see fit. Once you're ready to finalize, that's the only time you should hit 1 to mesh. And so let's go ahead and make that change. Okay. Now, what do we got? It's almost 7. So let's work on Conker a little bit more. We have this main base blocked out. We're getting ready to move to posing and getting all that stuff situated. And I think we should actually move to that officially. Because I'll pose each character, I'll bring them in, and then we'll final pose them. What do I want for that gate? Do I have any reference? Like a bridge over there? See if I can find something. So when I look for a reference, I use Google for the most part. So I'm gonna type in Conker Verde gates. Let's see if there's like a gate or something that we can find to use. So it's at least within the realm. Oh, you know what? Actually, let's type in locked money. Sometimes the money is just kind of out in the open. You just got to get to it. Not finding anything, so fine. All right. Let's move on to what we wanted to do something else. I'll have to put some fire there. Okay. You know, let's make some fire and then let's retopo the fire. Let's do that. So I'm gonna go to this torch. I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna insert a sphere. Go ahead and color, fill that object. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just straight up Dynamesh this right in the beginning. And let's get the snake hook brush. Which one? I think, let's try snake hook or snake curve. Nope, you know what? Let's just do snake hook. Not enough resolution for that. That is fun. Oh, yes, absolutely. Array mesh for sure. Oh, array mesh is awesome. There. Let's do array mesh. Let me first get rid of this curve I have here. Okay. Array mesh is awesome. You guys will love it. Sparks, you were the one that did the flower character in the Discord, right? I couldn't remember. Okay. So array mesh. Array mesh is actually really useful. It's really cool. I use it in probably the most simplistic approach, but the ideas are limitless. Like, there's so much you can do with it. So let's actually, for you, Sparks, I'm gonna make a petal, like a flower petal, and then that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna use that. So let's go ahead and take the move brush. Let's make a flower petal real quick. We don't have to get super crazy, but we're gonna go ahead and just, because I think it'll showcase really well. Right, so let's kind of bend that up a little bit. Go. Let's go ahead and Dynamesh this. All right, there we go. Let's make it green, because that's what flower petals can be in the world. Green. Take the move brush. Right, and let's even make it pointy. So I like to go to AccuCurve, make a nice pointy. Then we'll go move infinite. Okay. So AccuCurve is really good for repeating patterns that you need to have done like quick, fast, and in a hurry. So let's say I have this petal right here, and just for the sake of fun and argument, we'll go ahead and make this yellow. Okay. So the best thing to do or to remember when using array mesh in the beginning is to kind of just note where all of your points are, and try to keep them just home center until you're really comfortable with it, because array mesh can be used off center, but we'll explain it this way. So what I like to do is keep my object in the home position. Okay. You can definitely maybe even move your piece off if you want, but home position, it works out great. And then what I'm going to do is actually just come up here to array mesh and turn array mesh on. Now, once you turn on array mesh, it is active, and you are duplicating your piece. It defaults to 2, but it's kind of hard to see what's happening right away because all this information. What you want to do first is click this transpose button and lock position button. The lock size, you don't want to do that unless you want to make sure that the size of your object is the same size all the way throughout. So if you want it to be exactly the same, lock size. If you don't, leave it as such. Now what we're going to do is kind of repeat this a couple times. Let's say 8. Why not? Now this is the part that you really want to pay attention to. You have 4 options: offset, scale, rotate, and pivot. Okay? And each one does its own thing in conjunction to this layer. Because the one thing you want to remember is with array mesh, you can layer the effect multiple times, and that can get a little confusing. So to keep things basic for now, we'll just stick with the first layer. But note that you can change these independent of each other. So if you have offset selected, you're offsetting it. If you have scale selected, now you're scaling it, but the offset stays put. Does that make sense? So to make this flower, right, what we're going to do is set this flower in the middle where we need it to be. Sorry, let's just leave it right there. We're going to turn to rotate, and now we're going to rotate on one of the axes, and if you don't know which one it is, even I didn't know, is Y. And we're going to rotate this 360 degrees. This number is degrees, so you want to remember that. Now we have 8 petals rotated a full circle. Now we can just move this where we need it to be. And now everything I do to that one is going to happen to the other. Want more? Just come to repeat. Click more. Want less? Do less. Actually, I think that was cool. Now we have array mesh. Now, again, we can move this however we want. Right? Now, here's the cool thing. Remember how I said these are independent? So if I want to pivot these, so I like them here. If I want to see if pivoting is going to do anything or offsetting them is going to do anything, let's go to offset. And now I'm going to offset. And you can see here, you can almost make like a DNA strand. Like, it's the same rotation, but now that offset. And this is historyable. So you can always backtrack your history. Now you can kind of pivot and see if offsetting does anything. Let's try pivot. Pivot do anything? Kind of pivoting off axis. So here you have now your mesh that works out the way it is. Once you're happy with this, you can either do convert to nanomesh, which, you know, I would say if you're comfortable with nanomesh and then you want to convert, go ahead and do that. But I like to just go ahead and say make mesh. And now everything is its own piece. You can come up here and go to auto groups, and each one is its own section. So now you have everything kind of independent. But if you go Control Z, boop, I made mesh. I didn't like it. I wanted to go back and adjust. Control Z. Yeah. There you go. So as long as you don't lose your history, you can always come back to array mesh and say, hey, you know what? Actually, I want to make those changes. I want that to be up a little bit more, like such. So I recommend when you're using array mesh, maybe save out before you confirm it and make it look really, really good. Just go ahead and make sure that you save it and make array mesh. Now, let's say you want to actually have a second layer. So we're going to do this a little bit. You say insert new or append new. Okay. So I'm going to insert new. And now you have this thing called stage. Transform stage. It's 1, 2. That's your layers. So I can go to number 2 and kind of start making adjustments, maybe pivot it a little bit more. And then I can come back to stage 1 and I can make more adjustments. Maybe layer that effect, come back to stage 2. Right? And append new. So you could do a whole bunch of stuff. But notice that when you do have transform stage, your make mesh button goes away until you're on the first stage. Once you're on the first stage, then you can go ahead and make that a mesh and then continue moving forward. So that's confirming your selections, essentially. We'll get more into that when it's a little bit more comfortable, because I don't want to like bombard everything. But this is a way to use array mesh. I simply avoid using transform stages because I feel like I'm going here for very just repeatable patterns. But it's all history marked. So if you don't like something, you try it and it freaks out, and you just don't know, just Control Z it, and you can go back in time, and you can really just play with that. Yep, there it is. Perfect. Got my history. Make mesh. Boom, we're good. Can you adjust individually if you have a mask by polygroups active with move topology? So with array mesh, think of it more of like you're only working with the one object, right? That's it. All these other ones, it's kind of like dynamic subdivisions. It's not real until you say make mesh. So, but yes, you can mask off and work with that. You can use topological or move and make those adjustments, but these are all just displaying the single mesh. It only becomes a multiple mesh when you make mesh, because then it will go ahead and finalize that. But for right now, everything is off of just this one subtool. So whatever you do to this one subtool happens to all the other ones. And that's why I just kind of use it more for repeating patterns. It's something really simple to get done. You can make a flower in 30 seconds and then move on. But you could definitely do all sorts of crazy stuff. so yeah. But that's the basics of it. So hopefully Sparks that helped you out or helped out anybody else who was interested in array mesh. We could definitely dive in deeper a little bit more, just so that, you know, we don't blow too many minds. Okay. Now, fire. That's what we were doing. Fire! Is that what we were doing? Yeah. Oh, I should just delete these. Yeah, exactly. I gotta save some for other streams too. Right. Can you move the original position without transforming the other puddles? So that's where, let's go back here real quick. I deleted that, sorry. Let's go array mesh real quick, turn that on. So let's repeat this. Let's just rotate this 350, because why not? Whee! Whoops. Wrong one. 60. Okay. So just real quick. So what you can do. So the way I have it set up with transpose lock position and stuff, yeah, you can undo lock position and then you can move the whole thing. Yeah. So you just turn off lock position, then turn it back on, and then now that will do everything. So let's say you like this shape, like, oh, look, a bracelet. Turn off lock position, now take this and move this however you want, right? But remember, you're only manipulating the one sphere. So if you want to pivot or scale or rotate something, you're going to have to still deal with this guy. So if you wanted to make like a bracelet, then you have this, then make mesh. Then from there, you can then pivot it. But if you want to keep it in array mesh, you'll have to play with the pivot, scale, and offset to get that done. But yeah, you just unclick lock position, click it when you're done, and you're good to go. If you turn off transpose, right, then in lock position, you still have this. Just transpose lets you use this guy for repeating image. If you don't have transpose locked on, no big deal. But if you have transpose turned on, which I do right there, then you can do this with the transpose tool. Whee! So, yeah, just unlock position. Y. Boom. Done. Trying to use array mesh without the default 000 position, so I think that's why it's been a little hard. No, absolutely, yeah. I don't speak Spanish, but I have Google Translate. So if you give me 2 seconds, copy that. Maybe. Switch. Paste. Up. How can I get your ZBrush interface? Actually, my ZBrush interface is just the basic default interface all I did was went to preference, custom to eye colors, and I just changed these two and these two to a light blue and a dark blue. That's it. It's just the basic default. Also, I'll have to play around with it. I'll keep you updated on Discord once I make progress. Nice. Absolutely. Cool, man. Yeah, I keep my UI defaulted because since I teach ZBrush, I want to make sure that at any point in time I can show you where it's at and not have to worry about, you know, oh, I saved this thing. Now, I do have a custom menu, and I can share that in my Discord if anybody's interested in that. So if you would like the custom menu that I have, I can get that exported and put that in my Discord. And there's a link to my Discord as well as some of the other stuff I do. So, okay. Let's do the fire, and then I'll show you some quick retopo with it, because you can retopologize in ZBrush, and it's super useful, and it's a lot of fun. So we're going to go ahead and just use the... Where are you, Snake Hook? You changed colors on me, Snake. We're just going to get some fire here. Touch. All right. I'm just using Snake Hook and a little bit of tugging here and there to get it where I think I want it. Okay. Perfect. Now let's take our paints. Yellow. Gonna make this a really soft brush. Really, really soft. Give it just a little bit, and then we'll just kind of come through and retopo. Now, I'm choosing to retopo this on purpose. You can just Z remesh this if you want something a little quicker, but if you want a full control of something, or you're trying to make a game-ready asset, but you don't really want to move out of ZBrush, then this is a way that you can do it pretty quickly. Okay. Hello. Let me see here. See if I can just detect the language. But hello, welcome in. Sorry, I only speak English typically. Hey, it's Russian. Hey, how you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. Okay. So, we got fire. Rename. Fire. Okay. So, what we're going to do is we want to retopo this fire. Now, if you want to retopo in ZBrush, what you're going to end up doing is showing all the subtools that you want to retopo with. If you don't want to retopo anything in ZBrush, just hide it. Solo doesn't work out too well because you need two subtools visible. But in this case, we're just going to go ahead and hide the torch. And we're going to go ahead and retopo this fire so that we have a good mesh to work with, right? And it's not going to be too complicated. We'll just try to keep it quad as much as possible, but it'll be what we want. Hey. So what we're going to do is we're going to first insert a Z-sphere. okay, which is super important. And Z-spheres, if you've never worked with Z-spheres, you have new commands at the top that you're going to be utilizing. We're going to have Q for drawing, W for move, E for scale, and R for rotate. Very similar to what you're used to if you worked in any other programs as well. So, we're going to go ahead and hit E for scale, and we're going to kind of scale that down just a little bit. Just so that it's kind of there. And now we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on down. And we have, if we go to draw, boop, 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 we have topology down at the very bottom. With Z-spheres, this is an option that happens, same as rigging, Z-sketch, etc., etc. You hit edit topology. Now we are in retopology mode. And what we're going to do is we're just going to start drawing. Now, you want to be careful here because you want to make sure there's a couple rules you want to follow. Rule number one is when you're drawing out points, right? You want to basically, when you have points drawn out, you want to select the point in which you want to start from, and then you want to keep moving from there. Control Z is a function that works, and when in doubt, you can turn off edit and turn back on edit. And we're just going to go ahead and start placing down quads where we want to be. My bear is sleeping, and I don't play the Ballo. I'm butchering this. I'm so sorry. Ballo Ika yet? I don't know what that is. Sorry. Okay, but we're just going to go ahead and select the point that we want to start. And we just make our points to where they are. Now I'm going to go ahead, go to render, and fade this a little bit. Hopefully that'll help you kind of see what's happening. But we're just going to go ahead and start clicking and pushing. And what's really cool is you can click a point. And then if you go to move, you can actually move those points around, kind of wiggling it about. And this is how you start retoppling. This is really cool. Go back to draw. Now, if you want to change directions, so we're coming up here at this spot right here, but I want to actually change directions. Tap off screen. Select your new point. And now start drawing. And that's super important to remember because it likes to place the first point towards the sphere. Everything else off of that needs to build off of that. And if you don't have anything selected and then you click, it's actually going to put that space is connected to this sphere. So we want to make sure that we are selecting a point and then we're drawing out our quads. And then again, just hit W. We can start moving things around. This is something we can do here. Point here. Boop. 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 Just go ahead and there. Go ahead and hit W. Just move this around a bit. Of course, we're just going to try to keep everything nice and tidy. And if you know retopology, then that's the part that'll make it easier. Now, what's really cool is if we want to see how our mesh is looking, just hit A, and it'll show us a really nasty topology, right? So we got to go up to adaptive skin, turn off density down to 1, Dynamesh down to 0, and then if we hit preview, which is A, it is showing us our actual quadrants. A shows that preview. And then if we come right back to topology, it'll actually showcase all that good stuff. It looks like I might have hid something, so let's come back up here. That's a traditional Russian musical instrument. Okay, cool, nice. Oh, I got solo. There we go. Okay, solo was turned on. So now we just come back and we start drawing away. Like this point here. Now, here's a really cool part. If you want to draw in the middle, like let's say we want to make this another quad, right? Like split this in two. Click your first point, click in the middle, and start clicking down. But when you do that, it may not snap correctly. So you want to you would just kind of like click each point and wiggle it real fast and make sure it's snapped to the correct part. This way we can make sure that it is all where we want it to be. And go back to draw. Oh, cool. Nice. Now, if you're a right-click fan like I am, sometimes it might be best to just kind of click off screen. Make sure. See each point as it is. Go. Yep. See, I made a triangle there. It's no good. That. Go hit A. That's looking pretty good. That point. Come through. Feel like what we can do. Probably not the prettiest right now, but that is it. Yeah, that's working. We can always rebuild sections when we're ready to do so. Towards the end. Nice. Okay, nice. So we would just do this all the way through. I know I got a little quiet there. We're running out of time. So let's say we were finished. What you do is, just like anything else, if you hit A and you have your topology this way, all you need to do is go to adaptive skin and then say make adaptive skin. And now you have your retopo piece right up here. Now here's what's really, really cool. Let's say you do this in a small section, but you want to go back and continue making this piece, right? You're like, oh, there's still stuff that needs to happen. Well, the beauty part is that you have your Z-sphere still here. So at any point in time, you can come back to your topology, hit A, and you can continue editing that. So you can always save a version of that, no problem. I believe, too, you can even select mesh if you have this Z-sphere here. If you go to topology, and you delete topo, nope. Yeah, I would say just save it. That's the best part. There's a select mesh. Gonna have to figure that one out. Just joined. What is this process for? I was just quickly going over some Z retopology. We are currently making a giant, massive scene from the video game Conker's Bad Fur Day, where we have this guy here, the Great Mighty Pooh with Conker, money, sweet corn, and a bunch of other stuff, which will be for 3D printing as well as a virtual kind of handheld collectible. Welcome in, welcome in. We actually have about 30 minutes left, so I want to kind of finish feeling the fire out a bit. But if you don't want to retopo this, but you want to use ZRemesh to do a full retopo, here's what you could do as well. And I've showed this piece off before a few times, but what we could do is use our masking brush. We can actually select sections like this. And we can use polygroups to get some clean enough topology for what we want. It's always super helpful. Retopoing is a very long process, but it's super necessary to get the right deformation forms for characters. For something like this fire, we might be able to cheat it a little bit. But I wanted to show you guys that real quick. Something I've been playing with a little bit here and there. Go ahead and keep that for a second. Go. Information, polish groups. I go geometry, ZRemesher, peak groups, do that. And that's going to give us something pretty cool. There you go. That works out pretty well. And then we could just kind of fix stuff that we feel needs to be fixed. I thought this was actually looking pretty good. Telling you, that keep groups is amazing. So divide a couple times, and then project history. Yes. I'm gonna copy this. And then the old school method is just to kind of paste this. Let's actually do that real quick. Let's delete higher. I kind of do things the old school way. Place that in our scene. Hold control, drag. Now I'm going to have these torches in this pretty much the same locations. There you go. Fire. All right. Let's see here. All right, you know what? Let's finish detailing the rest of this, and then I think the torches. You know what? Let me see something real quick. Where we got the torches here? Yeah. You know what? Let's do this. Let's actually. They're small enough. I'm not too worried about the amount of detail they might be. So let's go one to mesh. Right? Yeah. Go ahead and delete hidden. I'm going to split these ones up here, just for now. Actually going to just delete this one. Now you might be asking yourself, okay, why did he just delete that one when he used Nanomesh? Nanomesh got me the placements I wanted really quickly, faster than I could by placing it by hand. But now I'm making a pretty purposeful decision in order to get this right where I want it to be. So in that case, sometimes it's just easier to put matters in your own hands, so to speak. And now we can merge these back down. So, torches in the same spot. I mean, yeah. That works. Let's go auto groups. So we're going to go auto groups, auto groups. Select each one of these and kind of modify it ever so slightly. All right. I think that's pretty much going to be what I want. So now we can start finalizing some of the other stuff. Actually, you know, let's do this one more. With this, I'm actually gonna unmask these guys. Unmask these guys. Back here. I'm gonna select just these two. Kind of center more to that fence. There we go. Perfect. Let's save this as a new iteration because I made some big changes. How to make a cube. How to make the best cube ever. Alright, I'll show you how to make a cube. Check this out. Ready? Really, really simple. Go to Insert. Pick a cone 3D. Solo. Turn on your gizmo. Hit that gear icon. Polycube. Hit F. Best polycube there is. Gear icon. Gizmo 3D. Good. That's how you make a cube. I like this one better than this Cube 3D because this Cube 3D has a pole on it. I never understood this pole. I don't like this pole. This pole is not for me. But this cube, this is the cube for you. You're absolutely welcome. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and define this environment just a little bit more. It's a little bit meh. Oh no, chocolate. Oh, we gotta get that chocolate. Let's do the chocolate, guys. It'll be way easier. I can do the detailing later. Okay, so chocolate. That's what we're doing. So if you're curious on the chocolate, what it looks like, I'm gonna go to Conker, bad for day, not babe, but day. Chocolate. All right. Images. There it is. A little piece of chocolate. That's it. That's the chocolate. We're gonna make it. It's gonna be super awesome. A lot of fun. Right? So let's go ahead and let's do it. So let's go insert cone, just like I showed you guys how to do. Go ahead, polycube, solo that out, zoom in. There you go. Right there, Gizmo 3D. Scale that sucker up. Bloop, bloop. Now we're going to use the ZBrush, or I'm sorry, not the ZBrush, we're going to use ZModeler. And I'm actually going to delete those edge loops. Scale that little piece down like such. Okay. And now I'm going to turn on symmetry. I'm going to insert some edge loops to give me a little bit of softness. So when I hit dynamic subdivision, it's going to give me some of that nice softness. I'm going to do the same over here and here, so I don't get too much rounding. I'm going to make a kind of a darkish brown chocolate color. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these spots right here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit inset. Like that. Over this edge, I'm going to go extrude. Extrude this guy out. Something like that. Gonna mask off that top part. Invert it. Turn off symmetry and kind of scale that down. Like that. Now I'm going to hover over this edge again, inset. Make this little piece right here. This piece, come on over, extrude. And I'm going to do it a couple times. Okay. Boom. Piece of chocolate. Like that. ZBrush. Now that we have our piece of chocolate, okay, I'm gonna go to Geometry, Dynamic Subdiv, Apply, subdivide a couple more times. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna turn on a feature I haven't turned on in a while, Thick Skin. I'm gonna turn on Thick Skin, and we're gonna adjust to make sure that we have a little bit of thickness, like that. So maybe 0.4. Now we're gonna take that layer brush, super fancy layer brush that we learned about today. Actually scale up our chocolate a bit, so let's turn off Thick Skin for a second because our brush is way too much. There we go. Okay, got that stroke turned on. Might have to go up a little bit more of the resolution. Now we're gonna go ahead and just make the letter C. I can do it. Oh, I got that alpha turned on. I don't want that alpha turned on. See. I'm going to hit 1 till it dives in. I don't like that C. Let's back it up. Let's try that again. That is an ugly, ugly C. What's wrong with you? Conker. Oop, turn off Thick Skin? Okay. A little bit. This chocolate be floating. Control-Shift-D will duplicate if you have subdivs. Go. Got some floating chocolate over there. Yep. Like it. Yeah, there you go. Chocolate bits in what, 5 minutes? That's why I love that cube. By far one of the best. Okay. Got a few more minutes. Let's start doing a little bit of detailing. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to add as far as getting the rest of the props in before we started posing. Now, I might pose next week and kind of showcase. I might pose during the week and showcase then one of the characters as a whole. Depends on how much time I have during the week. Don't always have a whole lot of time. I feel like this side of the world is empty. So maybe we'll put some toilet paper or something over there. Part of it. And this is the cool part about making a dynamic piece like this, that you definitely want to really just make sure that you tell the story. Anytime you're making a collectible, if the story is not there, then you really lose out on the feel. You want every piece to have purpose and meaning. So no matter how big or how small that piece is, at the end of the day, it's all about telling that tale, especially if it's not a single character. I feel like it's relatively simple to tell the story of a single character if you focus on that character. But when you have multiple characters, you have to like kind of explain why the interaction is there, what's happening between the two. So with him posed singing to the sky with the sweet corn in his hand, that indicates that the corn in his mouth is his teeth. Then now you know that like this is the bad guy abusing this sweet corn. And he's here to do something about it, but he clearly does get some sort of reward for doing that. And then obviously chocolate is yummy, so you know, what is the chocolate? That's the interactive piece. If you know the game, then you know the chocolate is health. The fire is going to give you that kind of ambient look. But yeah, it's definitely all coming together, and we got to make sure it reads well. To answer your question, is ZBrush not available for Linux? I do not believe ZBrush is available for Linux, no. But if you're running Linux, if you're able to kind of do a... you're able to run a Windows virtual world within Linux, you should be able to run ZBrush that way. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it is Mac and PC, Mac and Windows only, but that might be a way to try it if you have Linux, if you're running Linux. This poo color is too accurate. Yeah, you know. That's what we do. I feel like this color is really easy to make gross, you know? All right, let's finish detailing this up a little bit more. And then I think that will pretty much be it for the day. We have just a few minutes left. So, again, we just did this a lot with layer brush. And, oh, here's what's really cool. If you really want to accentuate a crack, this is still Dynamesh, by the way. So, go to geometry, up the resolution just a little bit, turn off blur, re-Dynamesh that. If you want to accentuate a crack or something, just kind of take the layer brush or the standard brush and kind of just like dig underneath it and around it and kind of inflate the areas around. That will really help you out with getting stuff looking a little bit better. And then of course too, you know, that orbs crack, bring that in, accentuate that. Just keep your textures flowing the same way that you would normally do it. Go. Let's actually get an alpha on here. That's a little bit. Let's actually get. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here we go. Check this out. We're gonna get alpha. What is that? 60. We're gonna do the spray on, and we're gonna say negative. There we go. Okay. Might be a little hard to see this texture, but adding just a little bit of cuts. More like noise at this point. Thank you so much. On Linux, you must use a Blender and the name is open. In the name of the open object. Well, you know. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. You do what you gotta do. Okay. Now here's something we're gonna do just to give this a little bit more oomph. Because I want the colors to really pop. Let's go ahead and let's get a darker shadowy color. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and go to masking. Yeah, mask by cavity, but we're gonna bring that intensity down a little bit. Invert that, and maybe go. Let's see something. I'm gonna do Control H, which will actually kind of more so hide the mask, and then I'm just gonna go full intensity color. Fill? Yeah, that's not enough. So let's actually do. Turn that blur to 1. There we go. Invert that. Now Control H, and then I'm gonna turn the RGB down. Okay, and I'm just gonna fill it slowly, because sometimes you can use this too much, you know. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's it. You don't need too much. Want the colors to really plop. uh, yeah. ZBrush is very much CPU intensive. So with all your hardware, make sure that you just have a lot of RAM and good hard drive space, and then a powerful CPU. Okay. Now with this color, I'm actually going to smooth this color. So I'm going to turn off intensity for the Z, but I'm going to smooth some of this color so that it's not so splotchy. I'm going to avoid the crevices as much as I can. Right? But I'm not getting rid of that color. Just kind of lightly going over it and kind of blending it into one another. Think of it more like like a blend. It's just lightly. I'm not really trying to erase it, but I don't want too much of these splotches here. I think it just looks too fake and weird. As the guy sculpting this environment. So, you know. Take that, however. And that will wrap it up for the day. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. I really enjoy being here, showcasing this whole piece. And we're going to do more next week. Next week, like I said, I'm probably going to spend some time this week off stream just kind of figuring out some of the poses. But I'll walk through that process, how I did some of that stuff. We can also do where I showcase UVs, texture maps, how to export all that stuff to bring it into other programs for rendering and all that. You could do a lot of that in ZBrush, especially if you're using your characters that, pardon me, that you have a lot of sculptural detail. So we can easily get a low mesh to work with something like that, especially if it's not going to be animated. Again, if it's not animated, you just get it as low as you can. You can do a lot in ZBrush. And then you can still bring your stuff into Unreal and stuff like that. So, yeah. I think that guy looks great, man. With this liquid, what I plan on doing with this liquid is basing a lot of materials, using a lot of materials in the final render to give me what I'm looking for. But we could add a little bit of sculptural detail, a little bit of bubbles and stuff like that. But I really want to make sure that the the material itself in the final render kind of shines, because it's just easier that way. But we can do a little bit of like sculptural stuff next week too. All right. Actually, you know what? Real quick. It's always like one more thing. No, don't do that. I made a mistake. Made a terrible mistake. Okay. This guy right here. Back face. Bottom up real fast. Okay, so maybe what we could do here real fast is subdivide this up a little bit. Actually, I want to take the standard brush. We're going to take the drag, and we're just going to use... No, we're not going to use drag. We're going to use spray, and we're going to take this kind of fun little texture here. Now, I'm going to take this lighter color, turn on RGB. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's... Okay. Even though... Watch this. I think I want more of a yellow color. And blend some of this color in later. Gonna build up some of this area around him. Now that I have an idea, take that. It up a little bit. Take this real quick. Yeah. Okay. Remember that smooth color? Kind of smooth that color. Do something like that. We could play with that a little bit more. Kind of blend that color in. Go switch colors too. Maybe go with like a little bit of a brown. Swirl some of that in there. And as I thought the word swirl, I'm like, that's gonna be right. And bit this right here. A little accenting around him. Go. There. Yeah, the color looks a little bit better, don't you think? Yeah. Oh. All right, guys. Well, that is pretty much it. Which I knew I said that once, twice, probably 3 times, but you know, that's how we do things, right? Anyway, all right, everybody, that is it. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, all that good stuff to Pixelogic, because you guys know that there are more than just me. There's tons of other artists like A-Cube, Shane Olson, Mike T, Paul Gabry. The list goes on and on and on. There's so many, Daisuke, Sakaki, amazing, talented people that are always here. So make sure to always follow, do all that good stuff. And I am live most of the time, every Sunday. And I say most of the time because I've had some Sundays where I've had to work. But mostly, you can find me here Sundays, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. So, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you guys next weekend. Talk to you later.